Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little bit special. We're unpacking Orn and the track, I Am Alive. We're setting the stage for a truly profound philosophical journey here. Because this isn't just a song, right? It's a manifesto. It's about presence, it's about awakening, and it's about finding this ultimate victory just in the sheer fact of existence. We're talking about recognizing that winning at life doesn't mean being perfect. It means totally accepting the messy human condition.
So right off the bat, we're hit with this core manifesto. I am alive, still breathing, still standing. And honestly, this is the anchor for the whole thing. Think about what the narrator isn't saying. They aren't saying, hey, I'm flawless, or I'm all-powerful, or I've totally got it all figured out. Because the ultimate victory here isn't about asserting dominance or reaching some perfectly enlightened, spotless state. No, it's found in the profoundly simple, undeniable act of just being present. After all the battles, all the heartbreak, all the endless uncertainty we go through, just being here, still breathing, still standing. That is the triumph.
Okay, let's dive right into Section 1, Scars and Invisible Chains.
To really understand the light in this track, we've got to look at the shadows first. And there's this specific, incredibly evocative lyric, heard broken promises turning to rest. It's so powerful because it perfectly captures the heavy reality of life's challenges. It speaks to the passage of time, our dashed dreams, and honestly, that creeping disillusionment that literally every single one of us faces. I mean, think about rust. Rust is the slow, inevitable decay of something that used to be strong and shiny, right? It's exactly like those early, naive expectations we all had about how life or even other people were supposed to be. But dealing with the decay of the outside world, that's really only half the battle. The narrator is also grappling with these massive internal prisons, talking about feeling the weight of invisible chains and having fear pounding in the veins. And what's absolutely fascinating here is just how grounded and universally relatable this is. These invisible chains, they represent the internal battles we're all fighting behind closed doors. We're talking about the paralyzing grip of doubt, the suffocating weight of anxiety, the endless societal conditioning telling us who we're supposed to be. And of course, that raw fear that sometimes just pounds right there in your bloodstream. The battlefield isn't just out there in the world, it's right inside our own heads. But here's the thing. The narrative absolutely does not end in that darkness. Because despite bearing all these heavy scars, and despite actively battling those internal, invisible shadows day in and day out, the narrator insists on one absolutely crucial truth. There's still a spark, there's still a light. It's like no matter how deep the rust actually goes, and no matter how impossibly heavy those chains get, there is this resilient, untouchable inner spark that always remains intact. And honestly, that right there is the very essence of human resilience.
Which naturally brings us to Section 2, the reflection of the modern world.
And this brilliantly illustrates the stark contrast Orn is making here. The lens kind of shifts from the individual's internal struggle over to a critique of the environment around us, the exact environment that constantly threatens to snuff out that inner spark. So on one hand, we've got the symptoms of modern disconnection, right? The lyrics call out trading living souls for digital deals, building golden idols, and ignoring this massive ecological crisis while Mother Earth is learning to cry. It is a razor-sharp critique of a society that's just driven by emotional numbness and shallow consumerism. But then, how does the narrator counter this heavy, disconnected world? Not with some grand, sweeping political statement, but with pure, grounding human truths, finding love in a child's eyes, and holding on to a silent promise. Because at the end of the day, it's those small, incredibly authentic connections that anchor us when the rest of the world feels like it's totally losing its mind.
So how exactly do we respond to a world that feels so broken, especially while we're carrying around our own internal rust and chains? Well, that brings us to Section 3, Hope as a Conscious Choice.
So the crucial point is captured perfectly right here. Hope is a choice we have to make. And if you take nothing else away from this explainer today, let it be this. In this worldview, hope isn't just some warm, fuzzy feeling that randomly washes over you on a good day. No, hope is an action. It is a deliberate, conscious decision you make, especially when things are pitch black. Choosing hope, actually fighting for the truth, that is the philosophical engine driving this entire manifesto.
But making that choice requires some pretty radical self-acceptance. The narrator makes this incredibly profound vow. I won't be perfect, I won't be clean, I'm made of doubt and broken dreams. But look at what happens right alongside that admission of being flawed. They make these active, powerful declarations. I choose love, I choose the flame, I choose the truth, I choose my name. True wisdom here,
It means totally embracing your deep imperfections and making the authentic choice to live anyway. It's about finally stepping off that exhausting treadmill of trying to be spotless and instead just claiming your true self, flaws and all.
Which leads us directly to this incredibly powerful moment in the track. I choose the dive. Man, I absolutely love this phrasing because to dive, it implies this complete total immersion. It's not just tentatively dipping your toe in the water to test the temperature. It is a fearless, active plunge into the absolute fullness of life. It's leaving all the hesitation, all the fear, and all those societal lies completely behind on the shore.
And that brings us to Section 4, the Phoenix in full flight.
Now, what's really interesting here is how this powerful declaration of life doesn't just exist in a vacuum. I Am Alive is actually the triumphant, soaring culmination of Oren's entire musical and spiritual journey so far. Just look at how these lyrical callbacks map directly to the previous works. When the narrator mentions invisible chains, that's a direct reflection of the toxicity and manipulation we explored back in the single Voodoo. The lyric, "Under the scars, beneath the fight," that echoes the grueling struggles of justice delayed. Fear pounding in my veins instantly recalls that intense confrontation with our inner shadows in Hello Darkness. And finally, Walked Through Ashes is just this beautiful nod to the rebirth we saw in Rise from the Ashes. It's like the narrator is looking back at all the toxicity, all the conflict, and all the darkness they've survived, just to reach this ultimate hard-won awakening.
Which brings us to this breathtaking realization. Because if the previous chapters were all about the struggle, burning down and then slowly rising up from the ashes, well, this chapter is completely different. The Phoenix is no longer just rising. It is in full, glorious flight. That agonizing period of rebirth, it's over. It's behind us. This is the pure celebration of flying free in the present moment, just radiating golden light and completely embracing the energy of existence. Yet somehow, even in full flight, the narrator remains so incredibly grounded in this profound humility. The song reminds us that despite this massive, soaring victory, they are, quote, just a human soul learning to grow. They aren't placing themselves above anyone else. They certainly aren't claiming to have all the answers. And honestly, that is so comforting. It's a reminder to all of us that we don't actually have to be enlightened gurus or superheroes. We are literally all just human souls navigating the storm, learning to grow, and recognizing that just being alive is in itself the absolute greatest victory we could ever ask for.
So, as we wrap up this explainer on Oren's I Am Alive, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. Look, we all have ashes, we all have rust, invisible chains, and fear pumping in our veins, but we also all have that undeniable spark. So, knowing that hope is an action, and knowing that we absolutely do not have to be perfect to take the plunge, how are you choosing your flame today? Seriously, think about that as you go out into the world. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. And remember, embrace the dive.